Peace and love, family, and welcome back for another Sunday Hope and Healing session. I'm Royce Fletcher Thomason, and we're here to bring you hope, encouragement, actual healing. And we do that through insights and anecdotes that we share, things that I've learned on my journey that have really, in profound ways, helped me, and also through utilizing the methodology of healing referred to as transcending the matrix, which is a holistic approach to healing that addresses a person on all levels of their being: spiritual, mental, emotional, psychological, physically, and our relationships, and in all areas of our lives, quite frankly. And so on today, we're actually doing a follow-up from last week, where we were dealing with resolving discord between men and women and creating harmony in the context of hope and healing in relationship to one another. There's something in A Course in Miracles that says that when I am healed, I'm not healed alone. When we're healed, we're not healed alone. It's a collective experience. Just like when I'm broken, I'm not broken alone, because in my brokenness, I respond to you in ways that end up creating trauma for you, and vice versa. And so when we're broken, we share and we disperse our brokenness. We infect other people with our brokenness. And this is part of the reason why it's so important for me to exist in a state of wholeness, not just for myself, but because I really love people. I care about people, and I don't want any brokenness within me to negatively impact anybody else, because I know what it feels like to be impacted by other people's brokenness, right? And so the more healed, the more whole we all are, the more it helps all of us, the better it is for all of us, and the more fulfilled and satisfied we feel in life as a whole. Curly Conscious King, as always, greetings to you, brother. It's good to see you in the space today. And so on last week, we were dealing with resolving discord between men and women and creating harmony. And we're doing part 2 of that this week. Last week, I kind of followed up in some ways from when I was speaking at Transforming Love Community earlier that morning. And quite frankly, I spoke the whole time I talked. I didn't actually do any of the healing. So today, we're going to actually put more focus on the actual healing. We're going to put more focus on the actual healing. It's fine to hear the things that I'm saying. That's cool. But what's better is for the actual healing to take place. And so that's what the focal point for today is going to be. And I forgot to add to the title. I was supposed to have added to the title part 2. And I actually forgot to do that. I don't know if I can go back in and change that at this juncture. It might be a little late in the game for that. Yeah, I'm not sure how to do that. I don't know if there is an option for doing that. But just know that it's part 2 of last week. And later, oh, here we are. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, sorry for this, folks. Hopefully this will just take a moment, and we'll get into the actual healing. Okay. If you know of somebody who, and let me say this isn't just about like romantic relationships. Okay. The way that we were divinely designed in the mind of God was to be very different from their men and women. Male and female are very, very different from one another. It doesn't make one better than the other. It doesn't make one less than the other. In reality, we were designed to all be one, right? To all be one. Okay, we have different aspects and such. But in a bigger sense, all of humanity is one. In a larger sense, even than that, all of creation is one. All right. And the more that we can operate from that awareness that I can't do you harm without doing harm to myself. I can't do harm to myself without doing you harm. I can't do good to you, genuine good to you, without doing good for me. And I can't do what's genuinely good for me without it being also on some level good for you. Now, reality is that it's not always what's perceived as good by the ego, because the ego is very much that sense of separate self. The ego thrives in the chaos. The ego thrives, that's the part of us that's trying to edge God out. And it fears its annihilation. It fears the oneness. It fears the embracing of all of us together, in peace and harmony and love, right? My desire is that we're all operating in a state of love, in a flow of love, one with another. All right. And so, whereas we can be very, very different from one another in a lot of different ways, masculine energy and feminine energy are very different. However, all of us, masculine and feminine, is in the entirety of the cosmos, right? It's in the entirety of the cosmos. The concept of masculine and feminine. It's not just about men and women or boys and girls. Men have masculine and feminine within us. Women have feminine and masculine within them. And hopefully men are expressing the feminine aspects in masculine ways, and hopefully women are expressing masculine aspects in feminine ways. But we all have masculine and feminine within us, and the more we can kind of embrace one another beyond whatever ways we might be different, because the truth of the matter is that men and women think completely differently. They operate completely differently, see the world very differently. It doesn't make either one of them wrong, but what's right for one isn't necessarily what's right for another, right? Because there are some very real differences. There are some very real nuances. Ron Hamilton, good to see you in the space today, brother. And it's okay for us to embrace those. I had a biology professor in college that said that a species requires diversity to exist. He also, and I got this from him as well, that a lot of ways we think that different is deficient. And so in this matrix mindset, we think that those who look differently than we do, who act differently than we do, who behave differently than we do, that either they've got to be deficient or we've got to be deficient in some way, and nobody wants to be on the side of the deficiency. And so we create all of these barriers and we get into all of these different ego battles in order to protect our fear. And we make the other person or the other group wrong, and we engage in all of this foolishness that gets us locked into this negative feedback cycle where we're spewing all of this negativity towards other folks. And as I said earlier, we can't put out negativity without that negativity coming back to us, right? And so that's why I wear this bracelet that has the scripture from a proverb that says, guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it flow the issues of life. That doesn't mean don't let people into your heart, don't love people. What it means is be mindful of what you're letting into your heart. Negativity, hatred, bitterness, resentment, animosities, all of those things that really are not worthy of you as a divine being made in the image and after the likeness of God, right? Okay, I'm feeling myself moving in the direction of talking a lot again. I don't want to do that. So we're going to get into a focal point of healing, resolving discord, and creating greater harmony between men and women, because there is a lot of discord, and there's room for a lot of healing, room for a lot of harmony to be established. It doesn't mean that men have to behave like women or think like women. It doesn't mean that women have to behave like men or think like men. But we can be the fullness of who it is that we were designed to be, while embracing the fullness of who that so-called other was divinely designed to be. And in that, we can embrace and draw from one another's unique perspectives or different perspectives and nuances in a way that's uplifting and fulfilling for all of us, right? Okay, so I'm going to just ask that you focus your attention in your heart. Just focus your attention in your heart and just breathe in. Just breathe in the light of God's love into your heart. And even as you exhale, may the light of God's love fill your heart and even expand into your chest cavity. Continuing to breathe in the light of God's love. And on the exhalation, letting that light of God's love begin to permeate your entire body. That pure love and divine light of God. So that love is all that you're breathing in and love is all that you're breathing out. To the point where even on the exhalation, it begins to not only fill the entirety of your body, every cell of your body, flowing through all of your blood vessels, reaching all of your organs, coming through your hair follicles, the entirety of your physical body, but then even extending beyond your body to where you are dwelling in the glow of love. I hear Luther Vandross singing that song, the glow of love. And then even as you continue breathing in the light of God's love into your heart and exhaling, may it go out and expand and fill the entire edifice where you are. If you're outside, may extend, even well beyond your physical body. And even as continue with this prayer, this introductory prayer that we're going to do, or this prayer that we're going to do to set our intention for the healing. Even after that, feel free to continue to breathe in the light of God's love and exhale it to where it keeps extending further and further, and even eventually encompassing the whole earth, to where everybody ends up being touched by this light of God's love. The most broken people are the people who need it the most. God, I thank you that you are a healer. And I give great thanks for this beautiful privilege of being able to demonstrate you as a healer through the union we share through your Holy Spirit and the power of your pure love, for the purpose of neutralizing the root cause of the discord that exists between men and women, male and female, on planet Earth. From the point of the causal root and the entire energetic structure of every strand of DNA and every cell of each one of our bodies, all 8 billion of us, but particularly those who are tapped in and tuned in to this broadcast. And transmuting that into and replacing it with a sense of divine harmony, of divine appreciation, and a sense of divine well-being and unity and joy and community and well-being and celebration. And I bear witness, oh God, to our wholeness. Yes, to our wholeness on this date and in this time and space called now. Thank you, God. Thank you. Thank you for this gift of your divine love. It is done. It is done. It is done. Ashe and amen. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the healing now. And if there's anything that comes up for you personally, feel free to drop it in the chat, whether you're on YouTube or on Facebook. Feel free to just drop it in the chat. All righty. Okay, and so let's take a moment now and we're going to I want to look at something that we all do, independent of whatever our gender is, that we all do, and that is put on masks. We put on masks. All right. I happen to be an eternal romantic. I'm a romantic. No shame about it. And I love seeing love win in all of its forms, certainly including romance. Um, Certainly including romance. And I sometimes, watch shows that deal with relationships and things. And one of the things, that I see, and I remember when I was younger, on a surface level, we look at what a person looks like, and we first look to see a lot of times if there's a physical attraction. At least that's how a lot of us are. And then I remember, this is as a young person growing up. I remember, my peers and young people starting to look at more than just like what the person looked like, but what their personality was like, right? Okay. Here's the thing about that. Personality, the root word of personality is persona. A persona is a mask. A mask is a front that you put on for other people to see something in you other than what's really true underneath. Okay? And so we all have these ways of putting on these personas, putting on these masks. We behave in certain ways. In a lot of ways, are coping mechanisms to shield us from impending threats or to get us rewards that we feel like we desire to have, that these certain coping mechanisms, these things that we kind of get trained into behaving in this certain way, putting on this certain particular mask, and then we see how people respond to that. And when we get responses that we like, we wear that mask more fully and more thoroughly. All right, so, but let's look at this idea of us having to wear a mask. And why do we feel the need to have to wear a mask? Because we don't think that we can be valued and appreciated and celebrated for who it is that we really are. So let's clear that out. Let's purify that through the power of God's pure love. All right. All right. And let's transmute that into feeling safe to be our real selves, where we no longer have to wear the fig leaf and hide in the garden. So let's look at that. Let's look at fear of being seen for who we really are. That's a big issue there. So let's deal with this fear of being seen for who we really are. Why do we fear being seen for who we really are? A lot of times because of traumas that we've experienced. We let our guard down and then somebody violated that. To me, the most beautiful thing, it does something to me. I love seeing this. It warms my heart so much to see women truly dwelling in their femininity. I know a lot of times, a lot of women don't feel like they have the space to be operating in the fullness of their feminine energy and have to tap into a lot of masculine energy to be able to survive in the world as it is. Perhaps they've had situations where men weren't showing up in ways that men needed to show up or weren't showing up responsibly. And so have to, exhibit a lot of masculine energy. But to me, there is something that is so profoundly beautiful about a woman just really resting and relaxing in her feminine energy. I love seeing that. It just does something to me. I love seeing that. And a thing that I hate to see, and I don't use the word hate very often, but a thing that I hate to see is when a woman allows herself to be in that place with a man, and the man doesn't honor that. And the man just uses her for his own purposes and then ends up breaking her heart. I hate seeing that. I hate seeing that. So let's look at this thing in terms of being emotionally irresponsible. Okay. All right. So being emotionally irresponsible, and let's neutralize this. What I'm going to call a lust mindset. Okay. Lust can include showing up in ways related to sex, but that is not by any means it's certainly not the only way that lust shows up. So there's a book written by a guy named Edwin Cole, called Maximizing Manhood. And I like how he laid out lust and love. He talked about lust in the context of it seeking to benefit one's self, even at the expense of another. It is something that shows up pervasively in society. It shows up in the forms of greed, in terms of, and a lot of times of big business, not honoring the people or the public. It shows up in politics. It shows up in individual relationships, where this thing of, there's something that I want, I'm going to endeavor to get what it is that I want, regardless of what cost that might be to somebody else. And I wholeheartedly believe in somebody pursuing their dreams, pursuing their goals, wanting to exhibit and demonstrate self-love and respond to life in a way that nurtures the fulfillment of your genuine, authentic needs, right? At the same time, there isn't a need to trample all over somebody else's authentic needs for you to do that. I support people wanting to be able to thrive in business. I do not support creating products that are toxic to the environment or toxic to the people who use them. Okay, for example. All right. Similarly, let's deal with this idea of viewing people from the perspective exclusively of what it is that they can do for you, independent of a concern for what their genuine needs might be, and them being able to have their needs fulfilled. Let's look at our kind of desire to try to control other people. Mark Wallace, greetings to you, brother. What up, though, to you as well. For those of you who don't know, that's a Detroit thing. Alrighty. So Ron Hamilton knows about that too. So let's look at let's look at trauma from having experiences of being used by other people in the past. And by the way, this doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be with respect to romantic relationships. It could be something that you've experienced, on your job, where their only concern is the bottom line, but not a concern about your well-being as an employee. It could be experienced in your relationship with a parent. Okay. There are a lot of different ways that this can show up. All right, so let's look at this resolving the trauma from being used in the past, used for somebody else's edification without, them valuing you as a human being. All right, only for what it is that you can do for them. All right, and let's look at the aspects within you that shows up, where you may be looking at other people only according to what it is they can do for you, and not really considering what their genuine, authentic needs are. All right, and so let's look at just an overall selfishness within the collective consciousness of people living on Earth, and definitely people living in the West, in the Western Hemisphere. All right, because that's very much a Western mindset of you getting yours, or you and yours being okay without really any concern for anybody else. Okay. All right, so let's transmute that into a global spiritual awakening. All right. And I'm going to ask all of you to kind of lend your energy to this, of holding space for a global spiritual awakening. Okay. All right. So, like, sometimes there needs to be a person needs to have an experience. A person needs to be able to have an experience that kind of breaks down their reality. There's a reason that the name of this methodology is called Transcending the Matrix, because it was inspired by the movie. Okay, and there's this point, if you haven't seen the movie The Matrix, I encourage you to go back and check it out. But the concept is that the things really aren't as we perceive them to be. We're seeing a very small portion of the pie, and what it is that we do see isn't what's really true, isn't what's really real. And we have to get into a state or into a space where we have our perceived reality broken down and cleared out of the way, because the reality of life is that the way that we're seeing things isn't as things actually are. We're seeing things through the lenses of our own belief systems, through the lenses of our trauma, through the lenses of our programming, right? And so we don't even know that that's the case. We don't even know that what we're living isn't what we're perceiving isn't what's really real. And so we look at the people that we interact with. We look at this group over here. We look at that group over there. We look at this person over here or that person over there. And we see them as the enemy. And the reality is that there is no enemy in the form of another person. The other person isn't the enemy. The other group isn't the enemy. The enemy is what has us at odds with one another. Right? The enemy that you have is the same enemy that the one who you're calling your enemy has. And it's pitting you against who you perceive to be your enemy. And it's very easy to get roped into that. But in a lot of ways, I feel like we need to have our reality like profoundly shifted. Some people have a near-death experience and it shatters their reality, and they see something, it blows everything open, and they see something from a totally different perspective than they ever had before. Their eyes had been opened. Some people, utilize a plant medicine, and it does that for them. And I'm not necessarily advocating that. It's not a route that I've personally chosen. But I feel like a lot of us need to, as a collective, need to have our reality tweaked. And yet it does take something within us to be able to allow that to happen for us. Or we end up responding to the shift in reality from a fear-based space. So let's delete that fear-based perspective. Okay. In a way, that's fear of change. In a way, it's fear of the unknown. As a matter of fact, that's a big part of it, fear of the unknown. And in connection with the fear of the unknown is not feeling safe, not feeling secure. More so not feeling secure than not feeling safe. So we're going to boost that up in terms of being able to feel safe and feel secure. To be able to feel secure in the midst of the change, being able to feel secure in the midst of a transcendent perspective of reality. And even to feel safer with a transcendent perspective of reality than buying into the lie, buying into the illusion, buying into what it is that keeps you at discord. Okay. Alrighty. Now let's look at this in that context, the perceived need that sameness equals safety. That sameness equals safety. So we're going to purify that through the power of God's pure love and transmute that into sameness is just sameness. Sameness doesn't equate to safety. And so with respect to that, let's open up space and create new neural pathways for developing a growth mindset. Okay. Transmuting, having a state of being mentally, okay, let's address these individually, being mentally stuck, and be able to flow mentally, and being emotionally stuck. Okay, and being able to flow emotionally. Now, the word emotion is like energy in motion. Okay, the emotions, are in alignment with the element of water. The nature of water is to flow. When water doesn't flow, when it becomes standing water that's not moving, that water becomes toxic. And so it is with emotions too, whether those are emotions that you're trying to avoid feeling, like anger, sadness, fear, frustration, irritation, hostility, whatever those might be. It doesn't mean that you necessarily have to express them outwardly in unhealthy ways, because people will sometimes do that. But the emotion has to be able to be acknowledged to get out of you. Okay. There are a lot of folks who are walking around with a bunch of unhealed, undealt with, unacknowledged emotional stuff. Okay. Anger about something that happened in your childhood, or about something that didn't happen in your childhood. And you've still got stuff going on now with respect to that, because it's locked in your body somewhere. It's creating a blockage, and rather than holding on to that blockage, which is going to seek to find its way out somehow, and it might burst out in unhealthy ways, in ways that are damaging to you and other people. Rather, we want it to be able to flow out of us. Okay. All right. And be able to even transmute those lower level emotional states through the power of God's divine love into more desirable emotional states like peace, gratitude, appreciation, fulfillment, acceptance, right? Okay. All right, so let's look at love. Love, add that to that list too. All right, let's look at something that's coming to mind right now is something that's kind of present in, to a degree, popular culture right now. On the one hand, you have the sisterhood. On the other hand, you have the manosphere, right? And each side is really about finding the other side as wrong and pointing out all of the things that are wrong with this other side, okay? And both of these movements, or these things in the collective consciousness of men, collective consciousness of women, are really tied to people's responses to trauma, and trying to get their power back from trauma that they've been through. Okay? Right? And so, let's take this whole concept of drip drip and drizzle drizzle and neutralize that and transmute all of that into love. Love. See, love isn't just about trying to get. Love is about giving and receiving. Getting is something very different than receiving. Okay. There's a certain degree of humility that comes with receiving in a certain sense. Whereas in just looking to get, there doesn't tend to be much sense of appreciation in that mindset. What can I get? What can I get? In that mindset, right? So that which you don't appreciate, you don't put much value in. And perhaps you've experienced not feeling valued by another human being. All right. Perhaps you're a person who has not valued other human beings, or you finding yourself in states of stuckness or states of blame, fault finding, blaming the other person or the other group. Okay, more so the other group. All right, so we're going to neutralize that, break that down, purify that through the power of God's pure love, transmute it into every act of love towards another is an act of love towards yourself. And setting healthy boundaries are also an act of love. The acknowledgement that setting healthy boundaries are also an expression of love, an act of love toward yourself and towards that other person, actually, while at the same time still maintaining a generous place in your heart for them. You have a generous place in your heart for them, even if you need to not allow them to be in your life. Okay. And that doesn't mean that you can't move on in future interactions with other people or future relationships even with other people because you're stuck on this space in your heart that you hold for them, which is really in some ways could possibly be based on addiction more than based on genuine love. Okay. So, all right, so let's look at ability to move into the future in healthy ways in a state of harmony and joy and bliss. Okay, now I want to deal with the fear of being seen for who you are. It's kind of getting back to what we were dealing with earlier about those masks. Sometimes we have a fear of letting this be seen. I can tell you in my own life, there are some things that I end up having to look at. And I really do try to be the best person I can possibly be. And I feel good about that aspect of myself. But there are some things that I had to look at in terms of really doing some soul searching, where I realized, ooh, that's kind of ugly right there. Right? Sometimes we gotta be willing to look at the things that aren't so great within ourselves. Might even make us cringe a little bit. And perhaps on some level, subconsciously, we know there's some stuff in us that doesn't look so great. And we don't even want to look at it within ourselves. We certainly don't want other people to see it. Okay, so let's look at fear of seeing ourselves and replace that with being open to see whatever is there within us without it making us have judgment towards ourselves, or without making it a thing that we use to condemn ourselves, or to point out that that's what makes us unworthy. Right? There are all these tricks that the ego has, right? And it can show up in different people in different ways and at different times and different stages in our lives. It can show up differently. All right, so let's look at this. Ego is always trying to punk us, right? And even as we grow and we become more evolved, the ego just gets smarter too. And it'll use our sense of being evolved against us, creating some sense of superiority and having us buy into false sense of security. When really there's just always another layer. There's always another level to which we can grow. And the more we can have a sense of confidence while having a sense of humility, have a confident humility or humble confidence, the more open we are to being able to see that which is in us, including the things that need to be transmuted and purified and dealt with for some real healing to get in and for some real transformation to take place. Okay? All right. And so fear of seeing things within ourselves, fear of other people seeing those ugly aspects of us. There was a gentleman by the name of Howard Thurman who said in his autobiography, With Head and Heart, he said to find an ultimate vulnerability, to find an ultimate security in an ultimate vulnerability, this is to be loved. Okay, so may we be the people who can allow a person to feel an ultimate sense of security when they're operating in a state of ultimate vulnerability. In other words, to be able to operate in such a flow state of love that someone is able to be and feel completely safe with us, and consistently so, in their most vulnerable self. Okay. All right. To be able to share the things that they might not necessarily feel comfortable to share with everybody else. And to be able to do so without you judging them any less, or without feeling any less respected by you. Okay. And then to be able to actually also be able to experience that in reverse, where you are able to be your truest self and embraced as you being your truest self. Okay. A lot of times it's just how we're designed, how we're quite frankly all programmed to pursue that which rewards us and to steer away from that which punishes us. And when I say reward or punishment, I'm not talking about like you do stuff that you know you're not supposed to be doing and you know you're going to get in trouble when you do it, but you do it anyway because it's fun. In that case, you're just deeming the reward to be greater than the punishment. So it's a net reward, right? That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is it's what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is there are certain things that we do and certain ways that we behave that ends up giving us certain experiences. And those experiences that we want to repeat will behave in the ways that got us those experiences. When there are things that we don't want to experience, things that are, to a degree this is true, but the reality is a lot of times we do stuff that we know is going to end up hurting us in the end anyway, because we're bought into this foolishness and this illusion, and where somebody's presenting something to us in a way that we want it presented to, but the reality is that their heart isn't actually in that space. And then we end up getting suckered into some stuff. We end up going for the okie doke. We get hoodwinked. We get our hearts broken. And then that creates this whole other kind of cycle that's not good for us. Okay, but in a lot of ways, we operate in the context of what we think is going to feel good to us, and we stay away from what we think is going to feel bad to us. Some of the things that we most need to do don't feel good on the surface, but it's what needs to happen for there to be really true healing and transformation to take place. All right, so let's look at chasing comfort. I heard in a broadcast of the Pivot podcast, I heard Mike Tomlin, who's the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers professional football team, say that he makes a point to not chase comfort. And a lot of us kind of chase comfort. We do what feels most comfortable to us. We avoid the things that feel uncomfortable. In other words, we stay rigidly tied to our comfort zone, and there's no room for growth in our comfort zone. So like a crab, for instance, a crab has an exoskeleton. Humans have our skeleton inside our bodies, but crabs, for instance, their skeleton is on the outside of their body in their shell, right? The thing about the shell is that the shell doesn't grow. The shell is not who they are. It's just the covering, right? The shell isn't growing, but the crab on the inside of the shell is growing. And so what the crab has to do is what's referred to as molding. It actually breaks off the current shell that it's wearing, and it comes outside of that shell. When you hear the statement, the term about somebody coming outside of their shell, that speaks to what crustaceans do. They literally come outside of that shell. Now, coming outside of the shell, breaking the shell open and coming out of it feels physically uncomfortable to the crab or whatever crustacean. It feels physically uncomfortable for them to do that. Beyond it feeling physically uncomfortable, the process of breaking through that shell and coming out of the shell that's underneath is still soft. And it takes a little bit of time to harden to where it's able to protect that crab. I'm going to just focus on crabs at the moment because that was how I initially framed it. And so that crab is in a vulnerable state to a degree while it's waiting for that shell to harden. And so this is why it's important for us to find those with whom we can actually be and feel safe. This is why it's also important for you to be someone who gives people a space where they can be and feel safe when they are doing the uncomfortable thing of coming outside of their shell and trying on something different, coming out of that sense of familiarity, that comfort zone that keeps you bound and locked in to where you can't grow and expand beyond that. Right? Well, we're all supposed to be on a journey of discovery, a journey of growth. All 8 billion humans on the planet. Okay. And so let's do this real quickly. I want you to just take a moment and close your eyes. And I want you to think about an area in your life where you would like to grow. Think about an area of your life where you would like to grow. Maybe you'd like to grow in terms of your romantic relationship. Maybe you'd like to grow in terms of in the area of finances, or maybe you want to grow in your relationship with a parent or with a sibling or with an offspring. Any area where you want to see some growth in your life. And then I want to invite you to imagine a box. And within the box is where it is that you are right now. Inside of this box is your life as it currently is, exactly as it is right now. And that thing, and just pick one thing for the time being, if you'd like, that you'd like to see in your life that you don't feel like it's quite there right now. See that as being outside of the box. that you're currently in. There is still another box that it's inside of, but it's outside of the box that you're currently in. And now I want to invite you to see, while you're dwelling in this box with all of these things that represent where you currently are right now, I want you to begin to see a beautiful, pure, divine light outside of the box that you're in. Outside of the box that you're in. And I want you to find within the box that you're in right now a door. A door that when you open this door, the light comes in, the love comes in more fully. But this thing that you're wanting and don't yet have is still outside of the box that you're currently in. And I want to encourage you to open the door to this box that you're in. And see yourself walking through that door. Observe even how you feel. Even if you feel hesitant to walk through the door, observe yourself. And whatever you need to do to find yourself stepping outside of this box, step outside of that box. And take that thing that you are desiring, that you don't have, put it in your hands. And then take it, put it inside of your body. You may want to pretend that it's something that you can drink, like a liquid. See it flow down into your body. Whatever works for you, just get it inside of you. The experience of that inside of you. Now, in this space, God, thank you so much for the healing that's taken place today. Thank you for all the souls who have chosen to stand in the gap on behalf of themselves and humanity, for there to be greater harmony, deleting the discord, transmuting the discord from what it has been into a greater degree of harmony, healing, harmony and wholeness, particularly as it relates to the masculine and the feminine and the masculine, males and females, females and males, and all the different ways that we go at each other. Not always, frequently even, not always knowing even consciously exactly why. But in most cases, is tied to some unresolved thing or even unlooked at thing with a parent or an early caregiver. God, thank you for the healing. Thank you for the hearts of all those participating. And thank you for all of the other gifts of love with which you shower. Let us affirm together, it is done. It is done. It is done. All right, beloveds. Well, that pretty much wraps us up for our session up for today. I hope that you've gotten a lot out of this. And I'll be real with you. I'm just going to keep it 100. It's one thing to try to do this for all of humanity and all of the people who are present. It is a bit of a different thing to be able to just focus on what's specifically going on with you. And so if there's something that you've got that you would like some personal healing on, reach out and let me know. You can do that sending me a message, a direct message at Royce Fletcher Thomason or Transcending the Matrix on Facebook or on Instagram. Feel free to do that. Also, you may want to look at receiving training. You know, I'm very thankful to be able to do what it is that I do and share what it is that I share. And again, I'm doing this in a very, very, very general sense. You know, if you've got an area that you'd like me to focus on, you know, comment, put a comment. Now, if you're on YouTube, wait until the live is over, because I'm not going to end up seeing the comment. After this live is over, I won't see the comment because it just doesn't show up that way on YouTube Live. I'll still be able to see it if you comment on Facebook, just not on YouTube. But go back, if you would, and leave a comment after the live is over if you're on YouTube. And if you're not on YouTube, I encourage you to go to the Matrix Healing, all is one word, Matrix Healing YouTube channel. And if you're not already subscribe to our channel, and also hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when we're going live or when we're putting new content out there. Now, I get an extreme amount of gratification being able to do what it is that I do. I've seen some wonderful things happen. I've been able to participate in the healing of a lot of people. And if that's something that you would also like to be able to do, well, I encourage you to reach out to me, because I'm happy to share this. I've been doing this for over 20 years now, and for a long time I thought the healing was more so about the other person. If I was doing the healing on somebody, you know, getting rid of pain or whatever, and I've seen a lot of that over the years, quite frankly, getting rid of pain and tumors and different sicknesses and diseases, you know, physically, mentally, emotionally, and otherwise. But in more recent years, I've come to see just how profound this is in terms of my own transformation and how I see the world. And it helps me to be able to show up in a healer in ways that I never would have imagined, in terms of how it is that I interact with people, how it is that I see people, how it is that I see the world. Okay. And for those who are practitioners of this work, you get to help other people experience what's referred to as medical miracles. But to me, those aren't the real miracles. Those are signs and wonders. The real miracle to me is a change in a transformed heart, right? And that's what I experience as a person who utilizes this methodology, how it has really transformed my own life. And if you want that for yourself, again, feel free to, I'll put it back up on the screen again. Feel free to reach out to me at either Royce Fletcher Thomason or Transcending the Matrix on Facebook or on Instagram. Okay. All right. And so again, if you all have anything that you'd like for me to talk about, or an area of healing that you'd like me to focus on, put it in the comments. Not during the live if you're on YouTube, but after the video is played, and we'll explore that, and we'll use that as a focal point for healing. Until next time, I bid you adieu. Part of me just wants to stay connected with you all for a little while. I'm feeling the beauty of what it is that we've done today. I'm appreciating that. Anyway, as we endeavor to enter into that sustainable state of supreme satisfaction. Until next time, I bid you adieu with peace and love. Catch you next time.